Let's look then at the story of the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, living sort of blissfully in this Edenic garden. And then suddenly this serpent being comes to them and offers them some special food to eat.
Who is this serpent? Ancient legend tells us that the serpent in the Garden of Eden was actually a humanoid form. It stood erect, had arms, and had legs, and clearly it spoke. The serpent talks to Eve and says, hey, have a piece of fruit. Eve eats, Adam too.
And suddenly they completely change into what we would call modern people who are now creating clothing, creating ornaments. They're building houses and vehicles, tools.
The discovery. And in a world where history and myth intertwine, a band of scholars and adventurers embark on a journey that will unveil ancient secrets. The group enters the temple, awestruck by the ancient architecture and hieroglyphs. Mia, these writings, they're in a dialect unseen for centuries. Could the Anunnaki have influenced so many civilizations? Alex, let's document everything. Every detail could be a vital piece of this grand puzzle. As they explore, they find a hidden chamber, revealing a map of celestial alignments and artifacts. Liam, this map, it aligns with the stars as they would have appeared thousands of years ago. The legacy. Our heroes delve deeper into the temple, each step bringing them closer to truths long buried. They find a room with life-size statues of the Anunnaki, each holding different ancient tools or symbols. Mia, touching a statue, these must represent the Anunnaki. Look, this one holds what looks like a medical instrument. Were they advanced healers? Alex, or perhaps these symbols represent a deeper, more esoteric wisdom. The revelation. As night falls, our explorers decipher an ancient prophecy about a celestial event that could change the course of humanity. The group gathers around a large stone tablet with a prophecy inscribed. Liam, it says here that when the stars align, the knowledge of the Anunnaki will return to the earth. Could this mean a literal celestial event? Mia, or maybe it's a metaphor for a new age of understanding. We need to study this further.
Enki is the god of technology of the Anunnaki. Zecharia Sitchin noticed that Enki was symbolized by a serpent, and he made the simple leap to suggest that he, in fact, is the serpent in the Garden of Eden that was responsible for putting us on our current path of evolution. Enki altered our human DNA in order to awaken us and to illuminate us. Ancient astronaut theory proposes that this actually is extraterrestrial intervention, that as the Egyptian and Sumerian stories tell us, beings came from other worlds and activated that part of our brain that makes us human.
Here is a visual representation of an Anunnaki being inspired by ancient Sumerian mythology. This image captures the essence of how the Anunnaki are typically depicted in historical texts and interpretations. Tall, humanoid, and dressed in regal attire that resembles the clothing of Sumerian gods. The background features an ancient Mesopotamian landscape complete with ziggurats, enhancing the mythical and mysterious aura of this ancient species. Anunnaki detailed profile. Origin and mythological references. The Anunnaki are often linked to the ancient Sumerian civilization. These beings are described in Sumerian mythology as a group of gods who descended from the sky. Their name, Anunnaki, can be translated as those who from heaven to earth came.
But perhaps most remarkable of all is the creation story of the Sumerians, who are believed by most mainstream archaeologists to be the earliest human civilization on Earth. Approximately 4,000 years ago, the Sumerians recorded stories about powerful beings called the Anunnaki, who descended to Earth from the sky. One of these figures was known as Enki. And according to author Zecharia Sitchin, who spent years studying the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Enki is the equivalent of the serpent. According to an ancient Jewish interpretation of the Bible, known as the Kabbalah, Adam was created from a human-like race that already existed on Earth. There are some who believe this points to the genetic engineering of Homo sapiens, and that further manipulation of human DNA can be found in the biblical story of the Garden of Eden.
Those who from heaven to earth came, they are prominently featured in various ancient texts, including the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth. Physical description. Depictions vary, but they are often described as humanoid in appearance, taller and more robust than average humans. Ancient carvings and reliefs sometimes show them wearing helmets or other regalia, suggesting a status above humans. Reported encounters and influence. There are numerous theories and claims that the Anunnaki were visitors from another planet, possibly influencing early human civilizations. Some ufologists and ancient astronaut theorists proposed that they had advanced technology and played a role in the development of human society, teaching humans agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy.
In 1849, a British archaeologist discovered 14 tablets in Sumeria. To date, these are the oldest known writings, and they date back to the 24th century BC. While the stories on them share much of what other ancient writings say, they put a whole new spin on the other ancient sacred texts. You see, while they do refer to a father of all beginnings, or some kind of ultimate supreme being, the tablets say that the creators in Genesis, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, these were polytheistic gods of ours, otherworldly beings, or just plain out, they were aliens. So let archaeologists continue to debate the history and evolution of man. If you go to the source, here's what the first civilization ever to record history revealed about our past. Here are selected legends from the 14 tablets and their parallels with other ancient sources. According to the Sumerian tablets, 445,000 years ago, creator gods, as they call it, came to Earth. The only inhabitants of Earth were wild and undomesticated animals, and early ancestors of man. These beings were called the Anunnaki, which means those who from heaven to earth came. The Anunnaki inhabited a distant orbiting planet called Nibiru, which only entered our solar system every 3,600 years. They describe Nibiru as many times the diameter of Earth and abundant with iron oxide, making its rivers and lakes appear red. Now, a side note about Nibiru. According to the tablets, Nibiru's atmosphere began to deteriorate and become a hostile place for life, and in order to restore it, the Anunnaki needed one important element for their atmosphere: gold. Now here are a few interesting facts. There is proof that gold nanoparticles can be used to repair our damaged ozone. It shields radiation, which explains why NASA uses gold foils in their space stations. While NASA is currently aware of 8 official planets in our solar system, there has been much speculation about the wobbly orbit of 2 planets, which points to the likely gravitational pull of a very large mass, which has yet to be discovered. Now, detection of this mass traces back decades, but in October of 2017, NASA published an article called "The Super Earth That Came Home for Dinner," stating there are now 5 different lines of observational evidence pointing to the existence of Planet 9. If you were to remove this explanation and imagine Planet 9 does not exist, then you generate more problems than you solve. Clearly, there is potential of another planet yet to be discovered in our solar system. When the Anunnaki finally left Earth, their influence had reached every corner of the world. from Mesopotamia to India to South America. Before they left, they gifted humanity the Sumerian civilization, which was inexplicably advanced for its time, having made a sort of a sudden appearance as a mature and highly organized culture that came out of nowhere. The Anunnaki taught the Sumerians their way of life and established monarchs. Now here's where it gets interesting. The kings would act as their emissaries on Earth and rule the people according to ancient principles. Unbeknownst to man, royal bloodlines were genetically manipulated by the Anunnaki. This would in turn explain the strong aversion by nobility to interclass breeding. Some people speculate that the Anunnaki have deceptively managed to control the Earth through this selective breeding of nobility for centuries, millennia. Others speculate that, as the tablets indicate, Nibiru may once again come close to our planet, and then the Anunnaki will return and restore rule over the slave race they created. This would explain the secrecy around the Sumerian recorded history. The entire first two tablets explain who they were and where they were from. Tablet 3 tells of the 6 days of creation, or settlement, on Earth. Later, they explain how the human race was genetically manipulated by these beings and did not evolve randomly. Even the technology Sumerians gave us came from these beings. The Anunnaki put the Homo sapiens to work in the mines and elsewhere in Mesopotamia. The Semitic word avad, or worship, literally means work for. Hence, early man had no choice but to worship their gods. According to the pictographs and texts, these Anunnaki, who we know lived many centuries, were giants compared to the Homo sapiens. Now, because their main purpose in life was to serve the Anunnaki, Homo sapiens were, in return, educated with social skills and academic affairs and technology. All this is abundantly clear in the tablets. The new human slaves were sterile, but as the demand for workforce increased, they were re-engineered so that they could reproduce. This later led to an overpopulation. So later, many humans were banished from the safety of their cities, giving rise to the story of the Garden of Eden and the story of banishment from paradise for procreating. Now, when the Anunnaki arrived, they were capable of living lives that spanned hundreds of thousands of years. They created a mining settlement they called Eridug, Earth Station 1, in the Persian Gulf, under a leader named Enki. The tablets convey, after a kingship descended from heaven, it was in Eridug. These visitors were not alone. They brought another extraterrestrial race with them. They were called the Igigi, and they worked as their slaves. The Igigi were considered inferior. They served the Anunnaki by mining gold. As civilizations grew, the Igigi endured crushing labor. And these stories are consistent with Babylonian tablets from the 18th century BC. When the gods, manlike, bore the labor, carried the load, the gods' load was great, the toil grievous, the trouble excessive. The great Anunnaki made the Igigi undertake the toil. After many centuries, the Igigi rebelled, mistakenly believing they could overcome these oppressive masters. Their defeat almost completely annihilated their race, leaving the Anunnaki without a workforce. Unable to replace the Igigi, Nibiru's ruler, Anu, ordered his son Enki to genetically engineer a new slave race, one that was intelligent enough to perform complex work but still be subservient to the Anunnaki. His experiments are recounted in detail in Atrahasis. Many unique creatures were created. Enki finally successfully met his goal, and the result? a genetic hybrid between Earth's caveman, Homo erectus, and the Anunnaki themselves. This hybrid we call Homo sapiens. The tablets called first men the Adamu. In Hebrew, Adam means man.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, strikingly similar creation myths exist in ancient cultures around the world. For instance, Mayan tradition describes how humans were created by a feathered serpent known as Kukulkan. And ancient Chinese stories portray the first emperor, Huang Di, as the offspring of a human woman and a dragon god who descended from the sky.
However, these theories are speculative and not supported by mainstream archaeology or history, theoretical background and cultural impact. The Anunnaki have become a cornerstone of many theories regarding ancient astronauts and the possible extraterrestrial influences on ancient civilizations. Their story has been interpreted and reinterpreted in various ways, including interpretations through the lens of modern UFO and alien encounter narratives. They are often cited in pseudo-scientific and fringe theories which blend mythology, ancient texts, and modern alien lore. In popular culture, the concept of the Anunnaki has been popularized in books, television shows, and other media, often as creators or manipulators of the human race. They are featured in various conspiracy theories and alternative history narratives. Scientific perspective. Mainstream science considers the Anunnaki as purely mythological beings. The theories connecting them to alien life or attributing them to advanced technology are viewed as lacking credible evidence and not supported by the archaeological record. In summary, while the Anunnaki are a fascinating part of ancient mythology and modern alien lore, their existence as actual extraterrestrial beings remains within the realm of speculation and unproven theories. Their influence on culture and alternative history narratives, however, is significant and continues to be a subject of interest and debate. Well, that's all, folks. Stay safe until the next video. Channel your inner Indiana Jones and prepare for a quest in the kingdom of knowledge. Dig through our description below where Meg Digital AI and Zen FBA books hide secrets more valuable than the Lost Ark and easier to find. In the meantime, and as always, leave a comment or two and letting us know what you think. Thank you for watching Meg Digital AI. Until next time, happy living. For great gifts and gadgets, visit megdigital.com.